I think generational curses are unseen captivity and it's unseen bondage. Welcome to Outside of Eden, the podcast. I am Brianna, your host. And if you're new here, welcome. It's good to see you. And be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel so you can be updated when I am posting. And for those who continue to support me, I'm so very grateful that you are joining me and joining the conversation. So yeah, man, I for this episode, the Lord has been putting something on my heart because He wants to set His people free. He wants to uh, relieve His people from bondage and captivity. And I think one of the things that we don't talk about enough is the effects that our families have on our lives and the imprints that they leave on us, and including uh, family that maybe you've never met, or family that you separated from very young. Um, it's one of those things where like we can try to run from it, but our families will always have an imprint on us, and it'll have like just this profound effect on the way we think, the way we behave, and the way that we live our lives. Because no family is perfect. It is also a beautiful thing to know as well that our brothers and sisters are also suffering with us. So we're not alone in that, and we're not alone in being in a broken family and in a family that's imperfect. But that's okay, because we are being adopted into the family of Jesus Christ. So the Lord is introducing a new way of us living and being, and He's introducing freedom into our lives. And in order for that to happen, he has to bring to our awareness the effects that our family have on us, and the realness of generational curses. The Bible talks about generational curses, and it talks about how the Lord punishes up to the third and the fourth generation for the sins of those before us, the sins of our ancestors, people that lived before us. So it almost like highlights this profound needing of like understanding that like our purposes today are so very important, because we are affecting everyone that comes after us. And so even if you don't have children, you are still affecting your nieces and your nephews. You are still affecting, and you are still affecting your unborn children, whether you believe it or not. Like, I think our initiative to go and to seek the Lord and cry out to Him and gain deliverance and breakthrough and healing is so very important, especially for our unborn children and the children that we are planning, if you are planning to have another child. Because anything that we are struggling with and anything that we was passed down to us generationally is going to affect our children. So if there's something that we didn't take the time to heal from, regardless if it's from our family, maybe we didn't heal from something that a partner or a spouse did to us, or maybe we didn't heal from something that a friend did to us. If we don't take the time to heal that, be aware of that, and cry out that you you need healing, then you kind of give that pain to the ones below you, and then they keep, and it's almost like they don't even understand the pain that they're carrying. It's just like this unseen spiritual bondage that they're dealing with, that they didn't ask for, or that they essentially gained from the ones who birthed them. So I think it is timely to talk about the effects of the generations before us and generational curses. Now, I have this whole list of examples. I think generational curses are unseen captivity and it's unseen bondage because we're not in the battle of the flesh. The battle that we fight is of a spiritual battle, okay? And in Ephesians, it tells us how we are up against dark forces and principalities of the air, and Satan is the ruler of the earth. And so it's important to be able to recognize how your family is being affected generation after generation, so that you can be aware, oh my goodness, like I had no idea that this was actually affecting me and why I was this way. And that makes total sense now to me. And so now you can break that because honestly, I feel like, and I've talked about this in previous episodes of how I don't think that we have singular purposes. Like I don't believe that the Lord placed you and I on planet Earth for one single reason. I think we have multiple purposes, and we're actually living in purpose. We are currently living in our purpose. Every interaction that we have with another human being, and in communications with other human beings, and being there for other human beings, and the roles that we play in our churches and our homes, at work and in school, and all of these different areas where we are present, we are living in a purpose. We're living in the purpose in which and why God placed you in that particular place, in that particular city. He gave you particular parents. He gave you particular interests in things. And so all of this plays a role in the ongoing purpose that we have. And so, yeah, so I think that in order for us to really just be able to like make a change and really just like stop that from affecting the people that are going to come behind us, I think I think it's important for us to be aware of the different variations of generational curses. So yeah, I have a list. So if like, for example, you have a family that the way that they bond is through gossip, then that can be trickled down to where a lot of people in the family involve themselves in gossip, because that is how everyone seems to bond. It has become a normal of the family. And so I think this curse can be hurtful to other people. It causes strain within the relationships, and it causes a lack of trust within the family, and with other relationships that we're trying to build outside of the family. And so I think sometimes families can be blind to the fact that they don't really trust each other. When they have this effect of gossip kind of trickling down the line, they don't even realize that, oh, like I really don't trust this person, until they need someone to talk to, and they don't even think of the family member that they gossip with in order to vent, or to talk about what it is that they are dealing with, and just being vulnerable. They don't think to be vulnerable with the person that they're gossiping with, because essentially what gossip is doing is it is causing strain and lack of trust within relationships. And so physical abuse is one, which causes trauma. It causes pain. It causes lack of trust as well. And then it trickles down to inflicting pain on other people. So typically people who are physically abused end up physically abusing other people. But in another thing about generational curses is that at the end of the day, the Lord loves us so much that he gives us the ability to choose, and he gives us free will. So like, we don't have to choose to be like the people that were before us, but a lot of the times people fall into the nature of the family. So if that is what was the norm and how they grew up, and that's how they learned to deal with their anger, and that's how they learned to deal with their frustrations, irritability, and lack of trust in God through physically abusing other people, then that a lot of people can just kind of like, if that's what they know, that's what they know. And people can only do better when they know better. So I think too, just understanding generational curses can also help us have more empathy for people, for human beings, and understanding that this is unseen bondage. This is unseen chains, things that we can't see with the eye, but is affecting people. I'll name a few more, and then I'll go into some biblical references. But addiction, of course, is something that is can be generational. Alcoholism, sexual abuse, divorce, having children out of wedlock, uh, abandonment, depression, loneliness, witchcraft, and rebellion. So these are just some examples of ways that families can be affected. And the reason why it is just so important, it is just so important, it is just so important, it is just so important. Because not only to be aware of generational curses and how it is affecting you so that you can decide to one, seek deliverance from the Lord, two, seek healing, three, stop the curse, stop it from affecting anyone else that is around you, and four, to be free of the bondage that it is causing in your life. And a lot of the times, generational curses are the consequences of sin. And so, when we go back to the very basis, I think Genesis is literally the foundation for everything. I mean, a lot of the things that you see throughout the Bible, if you pay attention, a lot of it started in Genesis. It started like in the very like beginning. You start to see chaos within the families. Genesis is the basis. But then what I love about the Lord is that he allows you to see in Exodus, and Exodus means exit. Pastor Darius taught me that. Exodus means exit. It is God. Exodus is primarily surrounding Moses' story and the Israelites and God relieving his people from Egypt. And Egypt is just another way, metaphorically, of saying captivity, bondage. They were in slavery. They were enslaved to Pharaoh, and they were enslaved. And you want to know what's so crazy? Exodus is the same chapter that the Lord talks about the fact that he punishes the third and fourth generation, him talking about that, but also it's in the same chapter of him talking about exits, of him freeing his people. He's also letting us know, hey, sins don't go unpunished, but I am a God who loves you so much. I'm a God that loves you. It's crazy to me how my phone is on the whole do not disturb and it is ringing. God is like, I love you so much that I want to free you from this bondage. And I want to free you from the decisions of the people before you, because I know how it has affected you in this time, in this part of your life. If we don't if we can't recognize how our families are affecting us and how generations are affecting us, we will live in unseen we will live being affected by the spiritual forces that are unseen, that we don't even know are affecting us. We're trying to understand why we handle things a certain way. We're trying to understand why, when we're rejected in any area of our life, through a job, a friendship, a person, and in any area of our life, through something that you want in particular, why it affects us so much, why you are prone to abandoning people and being scared of being abandoned, why you are prone to sticking to a substance in order to feel better, and why you are prone, like why you are wired a certain way. We have to get to the basis of, oh my gosh, I got to start looking at like How is it that my family thinks? Like literally in all areas. How does my family view money? How does my family view success? How does my family view family? How do we bond? How do we connect? How do we spend time together during the holidays? Are we a family that can come back from conflict, or are we the family that shun people after they've done something wrong, or you know what I mean? So then it's just like, then you can be identified of how you are being affected in the bondage that is on your life. And I want to let you know that anyone who is under a generational curse and wants to be free can be set free in Jesus Christ's name. uh, what I encourage you to do is to, one, of course, praying for deliverance. The Bible tells us that anything that we bind and loose is done on earth as it is in heaven. And so, when you are binding the spiritual forces, the spirits that are affecting your life because they were pretty much passed down to you, when you bind these things and you loose the freedom that comes with Jesus Christ, and you lose healing, and you lose all of the things that you will gain from release of captivity. When I tell you, you are going to start feeling different, you are going to start being different. Because here's the thing, I wrote this down in my notes. Gaining a relationship with God, you will start to feel the decrease effects of the consequences of those before us. A decrease in the effects that it has on your life when you seek the Lord for the healing and deliverance that you need from it. And also, it's going to be very, very important too, as well, that you are renouncing the decisions of those before you. You are renouncing any thoughts that you've claimed unconsciously and consciously after being hurt. I will never marry anyone. I will never have a child. I will never date a man again. I will never date a woman again. I will never, any claims of I will never. You have to renounce it, because you have to understand how powerful your words are. And I know that in the time we say these things when we are in pain and pain has been inflicted on us, but we have to understand that when we come into agreement with things, what that does in the spiritual world, it sends a message into the spiritual world that she has come into the agreement. And so therefore it's like it opens doors to other things, and generational curses opens doors to other things. It opens doors to other sins. That's why if you pay attention to the family aspect, you'll realize that your family is struggling with more than one generational consequence. They're essentially pretty much every family is struggling with more than one. There is not one particular thing affecting the family. There's multiple things affecting the family. There's multiples of us that don't know how to deal with our anger. There's multiples of us that have had children out of wedlock. And when I talk about addiction is not just of substances. Addiction is pornography addiction, addiction to sugar, addiction to. There's multiple ways in which addiction can play a role in a family, but addiction in general can be generalized. One person may struggle with the one thing, and another member of the family may struggle with a totally different addiction. But I think it is very important to recognize that one sin opens the door to other sins. It's kind of like I was talking to my friend the other day. She kind of says, when you give the devil a foot, you'll wake up and realize your whole body is in the door in the same room with Satan. Because we allowed one aspect to affect our lives, we came into agreement with one particular sin. We lived in that sin. We never repented for that sin. We never renounced the effects of the generational curses that affected our families and is still affecting us. We never did those things. And so before you know it, you're being affected by multiple things. And that's kind of how it happens. It's kind of how it happens. And that's the reason that I brought up Genesis and I brought up Adam and Eve, because if you think about it, they were our first parents, and they only committed the one sin of eating from the tree. But if you realize, there's several sins that entered into the world, not just that one of rebellion and disobedience. It wasn't just that one sin. There were multiple sins that entered the world. Murder entered the world. Lying entered the world. Coveting entered the world. An intercession entered the world. Adultery entered the world because of that one sin. You see what I'm saying? And we're not better than someone else because we sin differently. You see what I'm saying? Well, I just talked to you guys about how I coveted last week. How I was coveting my neighbor. You could be a liar. It doesn't, I'm not better than you and you're not better than me, because sin is sin. You see what I'm saying? So we're all sinners. And so we need Jesus Christ. And anybody that wants to be free can be free today in the name of Jesus. I encourage you to get free from the effects of your family so that you can adopt the way and living in life of God. And also because I'm going to make this last point that I think it's a very refreshing reminder that we are made in God's image. And it's also this added pressure of, because we are made in God's image, is that much more important for us to follow the ways and the commandments of God. Because for one, it affects the people around us. Sin does not just hurt us. It hurts people around us. Dude, it doesn't feel good to see a family member addicted to anything. It doesn't feel good to see that another family member is depressed. It doesn't feel good to see another family member being in bondage to alcoholism. Any family member that is dealing with anything, it doesn't feel good to see anyone in your family committing adultery. Why? Because you know that them living in sin, I feel like sometimes when we're living in sin, like I was telling my friend this the other day, that when I used to commit adultery, I used to wonder why I was always in pain and suffering after committing adultery, after having sex with a man that was not my husband. And I would always think it's because I'm too emotionally invested with that man. And I would always think that it's because I'm talking to him every day, or it's because I like him too much, whatever. No, that pain that I was feeling, that shame that I was feeling, whatever it is, that guilt that I was feeling was a consequence of my sin. So I'm thinking, in order for me to feel better, I need to pull back. I need to stop talking to this guy. I need to give him less of me, or I need to, whatever it is that we do in order to feel better, or go back and commit the same sin again. Because sin is one of those things where, in order for you to feel good, it's a temporary satisfaction. It's a temporary form of satisfaction. So in order for you to feel better after you've committed the sin, you got to commit sin again. So you got to keep living in sin and living far from God in order to feel better. That's wild to me. But so I really thought that that's what I needed to do. But no, I was suffering in this way because I was living in sin. It was a consequence of my sin. So we are made in God's image. And with that thought, it becomes even more imperative that we understand this, because we become a threat. You see, you got to understand, the devil wanted to be God. He still to this day wants to be God. So he does things like God. He resembles what God does, but with wickedness and evilness and darkness, and so literally we are a threat to the devil, because we are made in the image of God. We are the creature that is most like God. Horses and fishes and dogs and in whatever other creatures that live on planet Earth, God literally breathed into us. He breathed life into us. We were made in his likeness. So we have become a threat to the devil. So he planted the seed in Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden from the very beginning because he knew the effects that it would have on the generations to come, on you and me. Thousands of years later, we are feeling the effects of a seed that the devil planted. But the battle has already been won. The battle has already been won. Jesus Christ died for our salvation, our deliverance, our refuge, everything that we need, our healing. And there are so many things that we gain from being in God's family, including that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. That is exactly why it is important for you to know that you are made in God's image, because you are a threat to the devil. And therefore, it is important for you to stop the havoc that is happening in your family. I love you. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. I made it within 30 minutes, so be proud of me. Be sure to share this with someone that you love, or a friend, someone close to you. And I will see you in the next episode of Outside of Eden.